Welcome to Rocco Radio. I'm Jason Bryan and you're listening to Newsdesk. Rocco Radio is bringing you the fresh news and insights about telecoms, roaming and interconnect as we do in our reports. This is the first monthly Newsdesk from Rocco, and our aim is to provide you with a blend of news, insights and opinion about the world of roaming and interconnect. We also share with you insights into the research Rocco is conducting at present and how this may benefit both MNOs and vendors within our community. This is the Rocco Newsdesk from London and Rome. In this week's podcast, we are joined over the airwaves by Stefano Dizottis, Rocco's chief consultant on IPX fraud and security. Stefano is going to talk to us about MNO's growing dependence on IPX services and why more research is needed into the pricing in this area.
For the first time, about pricing models that seems to be available in the market, pricing models including a limit, a maximum number of diameter transactions per second.
We're also going to hear about the 3 exciting new IPX surveys Rocco is conducting right now, which when conducted previously provided very actionable and helpful data for MNOs, but also for IPX vendors too. Now, we all know that mobility and international roaming are important lifestyle trends in the marketplace, as consumers and businesses embrace smart devices and the Internet of Things. Let's face it, while Wi-Fi is helpful and where we may consume most of our data, we are dependent on smart mobile devices, and naturally this means more and more dependence on roaming, with or without the regulations. This week, therefore, I'm joined by Stefano Dizottis. Welcome, Stefano.
Thank you, Jason. Really pleasure to be here.
And how is Rome today, Stefano?
This night we had rain, but today I think is starting as a beautiful day, partially sunny day.
Oh, wonderful. Rome is always so beautiful. Well, on to the purpose of this podcast. Stefano and I are here today to tell you about the 3 exciting new surveys which Rocco has recently started doing. Some of the surveys we have done before, and the results of those surveys were extremely interesting. Rocco received a number of great feedbacks from MNO on the results, particularly on the pricing surveys. Currently, there is no market price on IPX services, so often Rocco receives requests on what MNOs should be charged for some of the IPX services they have.
Yeah, it's true. Basically, sometimes I obviously have conversations with people I know among vendors, meaning IPX service providers and also the other MNOs. And what I got were comments about the fact that pricing for the IPX service in general, and then we'll see that with the new researches we are focusing on 2 of them in particular. Pricing, is very unpredictable. And so there was a strong interest by MNOs because obviously they are buying such services, but mainly also by the IPX providers to understand the market price for such services, because it's really, really difficult. Maybe more now than at the beginning when the first basic IPX services like data roaming and diameter signaling were launched.
These are the very same reasons Rocco was asked to conduct diameter transaction market pricing research back in 2015. So many MNOs were buying IPX services and didn't know what they would be charged. It's also true that even if the vendors looking at the pricing structure for the first time had no idea what to charge their clients. We had over 100 MNOs give us what the approximate market price was for these services. At first they were quite hesitant to give the information, but when they saw we were just looking for approximate data, they simply had to choose from ranges instead of saying exactly what they were charged. They took part freely, and they shared lots of insights. The incentive to take part was also clear. Pricing data, the highest rate, the lowest rate, the average per region, per operator type, is very interesting data. Also, pricing structures are key to understanding what their options might be with their IPX vendor. Every IPX seems to have a different approach to this.
I absolutely agree, because let's start from the consideration that there is a strong competition. And why? Because basically the basic IPX services that initially were the IPX data roaming, diameter signaling, and let's say also voice over IPX. So such basic IPX services are present in the portfolios of services of all the main global IPX providers. So there is a strong competition here. How IPX providers are differentiating their offering is through value-added services, and often offering these services in bundle with the basic IPX services. But since this is not always possible, and sometimes this is not requested by the customer, by them no, so what remains is a competition on pricing. And this is causing a huge variation of prices. Sometimes lack of transparency on the market price, and this is perceived by the mobile operators as a latent frustration. But mainly, there are also strong efforts by IPX provider to build pricing models that can be competitive. And I think these services that we are launching will be important also to get these details. Because, for instance, speaking with my contacts, I heard for the first time about pricing models that seems to be available in the market, pricing models including a limit, a maximum number of diameter transactions per second. And this is the first time that I'm hearing about such kind of pricing model, because usually transactions were priced based on a monthly charge or per volume. No? But for instance, this detail of the limiting the number of transactions per second could be something that maybe can make the difference can make the difference in an offer. No? So I think these are the kind of details that we are trying to get insight into.
Clearly today there are vendors who are not fully aware of what pricing model to charge. Several vendors sought our reports in the past to try and understand the pricing they should charge regionally. In a way, you can't blame them when there is a new service and it's not known what the typical charges are. All insights which help to explain the market are always useful. There's not always a lot of competition in each market either. Take, for example, Europe and Africa. Many MNOs have their own IPX, especially in Europe. We had even IPX contacting us asking how they can sell IPX services when the MNOs they want to sell to have their own wholesale IPX service options. What approach should they take to win MNOs who have IPX as customers? And we gave them some suggestions. The point is, competition is different everywhere. If you are an African MNO, you're not going to have the same choice, even while the IPX have regional sales teams in that market. There just isn't the same choice. A smaller MNO in Africa may not even be of interest to some IPX, and their pricing is going to reflect that.
Yeah, that's. I mean, absolutely agree. That's true. This is one of the let's say the characteristics of the pricing that we are trying to understand, because what you are saying is basically what should be expected, meaning there are different regions, geographic regions, with the different dynamics of prices. And so it can be expected that pricing would be different depending on the geographic location of the customer, of the interconnection point. But it's also true that in regions where there is a strong competition, and for instance, Europe is one of these, and even more Western Europe, these discrepancies, this difference in prices are not justified by the fact that they are in a different geographic region. So there are other dynamics that we are trying to understand.
As we saw from our 2015 research, a 1000% difference in the market price between two MNOs in different geographical regions. You might think, what is the bundle or the specific package they are getting and how is it designed? Clearly, a big MNO group has more negotiating power. So, what are we trying to do with these surveys? Well, we're trying to dig into this topic. The surveys are there on our website. There is some interesting insights just even by looking at the surveys and how they are designed. We explain all the pricing models that are used today. Every MNO who takes part receives the summary report of the aggregated data of all MNOs. Whole groups take part even if they had some view across their group before. They want to know what the real average is across the world. It's new information, and I think that's the point. On confidentiality, we take the details, of course, very simply. We take the details of the MNO themselves because, of course, we need to send them their free report. It's not information which we share outside of the company. Also to remember, we're not asking for the exact price. We're asking what range you think is the market price for these services. There is also a section where MNOs can simply put their pricing model without answering all the questions. Stefano, the IPX Networks Data Roaming Market Pricing Survey 2017, as the designer of this survey, can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, basically this is so we saw that in 2015 we have a contribution to our IPX market pricing service from over 100 MNOs. And also the service themselves, the reports, were very well accepted, received by the market, because a lot of vendors and MNOs obviously had interest in them. So we are repeating this exercise this year, and we think it will be even more interesting to run this service this year because GSMA is working a lot around the standards of IPX and putting focus on the IPX networks and the IPX framework. So I think I really think that this year will be. I mean, these reports have the potential to provide very, very valuable insights.
We heard, of course, from one particular MNO group who is questioning the pricing they have. They wanted to know the market price. Now, they were stating that it's time to focus more on the pricing these days, of course, with LTE. There's even more focus on IPX. The standards are changing, and it's time to look again at what we are paying. On the diameter transactions market pricing survey, we also have some interesting data to uncover.
Yeah, I think that regarding diameter transaction, one of the aspects that are more interesting to, let's say, to figure out and then to present through this report is the pricing model. Because while for data roaming, pricing models obviously can vary, but are mainly linked to the bandwidth or the traffic flowing through such bandwidth. With for diameter and transaction could be more original pricing models. I mentioned the possibility to have a limitation on the number of diameter transactions per second. We could see a different way to propose a bursable pricing model made with the thresholds on the number of transactions. And I think it will be also useful to understand if in the market IPX services like diameter signaling, that basically is a service delivered on top on the underlying IPX network, if customers are charged only for the IPX services, so only for diameter, only for the diameter transaction, or could be also a charge for the IPX bandwidth that this service is using. So basically, is the customer paying just one price for diameter, including all, or there are some operators that are offering are requesting two separate charges, one for the diameter transaction and one for the usage of the IPX bandwidth, I think this is also an interesting aspect to see.
I agree with you. These are all insights which help the market to understand what is happening right now. Finally, we are conducting for the 4th year the IPX vendor performance research. This survey, which is for MNOs only, is a study specifically about IPX networks and their performance and leadership. Rocco has taken over 30 KPIs and asked MNOs to rate IPX networks on their performance. Since the survey is not sponsored by anyone and Rocco is a neutral company, Rocco also sells an extended version of the report to MNOs who did not take part in the survey, or to the vendors themselves who are always interested in what the MNOs think about them. This is interesting to MNOs who are taking a new IPX or replacing an IPX, getting even an additional IPX, and MNOs who just want to see how their IPX vendor performs against the others. Who is the most trusted, dynamic, who has the most connections, and many other similar KPIs. We also ask a number of questions on where IPX are heading. All 3 surveys are running right now. Any other insights you want to share, Stefano, on these surveys?
Just to conclude, underlining that I think these surveys and the reports we are going to write on them will be, I think, is an effort that we are doing to produce information that will be very valuable. I think we designed the service in well, meaning balancing the fact that they must be confidential, protecting the confidentiality of the MNOs that are taking part, but at the same time trying to get the information for useful insights. And I also think that it's a good time in the market to run this service now, because the competition is high, so we'll discover useful details. Yes, I think, and also I think that the 2 services, the data roaming pricing and the diameter pricing, work well together, because these 2 IPX services are part of the basic IPX services offered by any global MNO. So they are good to be read together.
So you would advise that MNOs completing these reports do both in parallel to get the full story on the pricing?
Yes, because the data roaming, IPX data roaming basically comes with the LT roaming. We don't have LT roaming without diameter signaling. So even though the mobile operator is buying the data roaming payload part and the signaling diameter signaling part by 2 different vendors, I think he could have interest to participate in both surveys. Also because in return he will get the free executive summary for both the reports.
Stefano, thank you very much for your time and your insights. I know you spent a lot of hours designing these surveys. This is a great opportunity which doesn't come very often for MNOs to participate in and to get free, useful reports that they can really act upon. Hopefully Stefano and I have made it pretty clear to understand how Rocco is assisting with these exciting new surveys. In case you want to chat with Stefano or I, we are both available for any questions MNOs or vendors may have about these reports. Since 2014, Rocco has been developing several interesting reports into IPX, particularly around the area of vendor performance. Please ask us for more details or see our website. Please contact us in case you think we can help you with research, training or consulting on IPX related matters. We hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. Until next time, this is Jason Bryan and you've been listening to Newsdesk from Rocco Radio.